Welcome to Democratic Dialogue. My name is Bernadette, and today we'll be speaking with Julie LaFontaine, who is the Executive Director of Open Door. Welcome, Julie.
Well, thank you for having me.
When people hear the Open Door, they automatically think of the food pantry. In actuality, the Open Door encompasses so much more than that. Can you describe the services available at the Open Door and which communities are involved?
Sure. So you're exactly right. When people think of the Open Door, they tend to think of it through the point at which they entered. And so it might be the food pantry. It might be that they came to the meal program or prepared a community meal with their church group. And they tend to think of the Open Door as that. And so to that end, I like to think of the Open Door as everyman. But we do have a variety of services. We're a community food resource center. And we're really focused on providing an economic intervention for households that may not be stable for some reason or another. And we do that through providing food through one of our two food pantries. We have a food pantry in Gloucester and in Ipswich. We have our mobile markets that go out to public housing neighborhoods, low-income schools, senior centers, and then also we have been going for the last just a little over a year to the Danvers campus of North Shore Community College in response to a study that showed that large numbers, more than half of the students, were at risk of being food insecure. So there's the mobile market that goes out to where people live and learn. When the summer rolls around, we do a summer meals program. We're at the Rose Baker Senior Center 3 days a week doing a soup and salad bar, soon to be 4 days a week. We're really excited about that. And really all manner of connecting to people to good food. So.
Okay, and how many people in Gloucester are currently being served by the services offered by the Open Door? And is there any noticeable increase or decrease from the previous year?
So last year, the Open Door in all of its programs and services in all of its cities and towns served 7,747 unique individuals. So that's pushing up on 8,000 people. It's about 3,500 households, and that includes 1 in 6 Gloucester residents. So the heart of our service area certainly is Gloucester. But if you look at the distribution of food insecurity across our service area, which is Cape Ann plus Ipswich, and then the towns contiguous to Ipswich, so it's 10 cities and towns here in the northeast corner of Essex County. But if you look at food insecurity spread out across those communities, in every community there are pockets of food insecurity. And to be food insecure means not having consistent access to adequate nutrition in a socially acceptable environment.
Who are these people that are coming for services? What proportion would be, say, homeless or families with children and elderly?
Yeah. So, I think I've told this story in the past, but, we have a lot of school groups that will come to volunteer and do volunteer projects at the food pantry. And I always like to ask, well, who do you think uses the food pantry? And inevitably, kids will answer, oh, it's the homeless, when in fact most of the people we serve are actually housed. And in fact, it's a very small percentage of those that we serve who are homeless, technically homeless. And so, we're serving more than half of the people that we serve are women or girls. 30% of those that we serve are children. 23% are elders. So if you start chopping up that 7,747 people into pieces of the pie, that's the way it breaks out.
Wow, that's a lot of kids. That's a lot of kids. And where does funding for food, I should say, not just for food, but and food, come from? Is it state, federal, donations? I know Second Glance, obviously supermarkets, but what's the breakdown? How does that run?
Yeah, so not surprisingly, to provide food for that many people, it's It's not a small operation. It is a $2.9 million cash operation to get the food gathered and distributed out through all of those programs. We have a strong partner in the Greater Boston Food Bank, and in fact, about 57% of our food comes from the Greater Boston Food Bank or through the Greater Boston Food Bank. And then we have a good portion of food, over 400,000 pounds last year, came through food rescue. So that would be food that, might otherwise be thrown away, but still had good nutritional value. Our team is out on the road 5 days a week, picking up from grocers and growers and bringing that food back in.
I imagine that food rescue is a vital part of the food bank, and I was going to ask how that worked. I was watching CNN recently, and they had that the Heroes Awards, and one of the girls that was presented with one of the hero trophies, she's actually I believe she started something called Means Database. I don't know if you've heard of that.
I have, yes.
But she had mentioned that 40% of the food in the United States is wasted, thrown away.
Yeah.
And I just found that shocking, absolutely shocking. With that many people who are food insecure, how do we do that? And
it certainly is an astounding number, and I think that that's why the Open Door has made a real commitment to the food rescue piece of our operation. And of the 1.8 million pounds of food that we collected last year, over 400,000 pounds of that was food rescue. And so you can say, well, what is food rescue? And so when you go to a grower, something might be perfectly edible, perfectly nutritious, but it's the wrong size. It's called the B product. So for example, you go to an orchard owner, and the apples all need to be a certain size to go to market. You might have some this big, and you might have some this big. They're still perfectly good apples. They're just the wrong size for market. And that's where an organization like the Open Door can come in and take the culls or the bee product from a farm, bring it back to our pantry. We can distribute it out through the pantry, or we might pop it into our kitchen and turn it into some applesauce or some other form for distribution. And that way we're really helping the clients who are coming make a healthy choice that's an easy choice. And we're also utilizing that food rescue food.
And I would imagine that's also people in the community who maybe have I don't want to say farms, but gardens that are overgrown. Maybe they have too many of one thing. Would that be part of that?
That absolutely falls into it. And in fact, I think the end of August, beginning of September is like, sneak a zucchini onto your neighbor's porch day. I think there's actually a day that you do that. But instead of doing that, the food pantry is open for business and can take the overages from gardens. And in fact, we encourage people when they're planting gardens to plant an extra row that they would plan on donating to the food pantry.
Oh, that's smart. That is really smart. So with food rescue, how exactly does that work? Do you have a list of people who have dedicated a commitment to bringing their bee products or having them available?
Right. So we certainly have a list of reliable food rescue partners that have committed to give their overages to us or that type of product. But a lot of food rescue is by happenstance. So, for example, there's a local food source that had some fish that was for a major supermarket, and it was not quite the right whatever size or shape or whatever it was that they needed. And so all of a sudden we ended up with 700 pounds of lovely salmon. And you have to move that quickly. And so our nutrition team in the kitchen went into overdrive. They baked up a bunch of salmon with dill and with lemon, and the building smelled wonderful, and we were able to give those items out through our food pantry rather quickly, either in a whole a whole cooked form or in the form of fish that could be taken home and prepared. And so it's by planning, but also by happenstance.
Wow, that is just truly amazing. So you're offering prepared meals through the food pantry service, yes?
So yes, we are, and I'm glad you asked me about that. It is part of a longer-term strategic plan for the organization to move beyond just providing food, because food can come in all shapes and sizes and forms, and in that moment, you're no longer hungry because you've eaten.
Sure.
But we're making a long-term commitment to nutrition, and one of the ways that we're doing that is through an initiative called Healthy Choice, Easy Choice. And it was not original by us, but we really loved the thought of saying, listen, if you're short on money, you may also be short on the time that you need to prepare the food, that would be the best choice for you. So you get home from work, maybe you're working 2 jobs, you're going to grab the thing that's the easiest to eat. And oftentimes that is not the best thing to eat. And so we wanted to make sure that there were grab and go items, partially prepped meals or fully prepped meals in the kitchen. And the Open Door actually has, we call it the private label. It's not really a private label. It's an Open Door label, and it has the made on date, the used by date, the ingredients, the nutrition information, so that people can be making that healthy choice in an easy way.
Wow, that's really wonderful. So I imagine that there are probably people who don't have access to, kitchens or stoves, so that makes it easier for them to.
It certainly does, yes.
Yeah. So I wanted to get back to funding a little bit, or actually more of policy.
Okay.
So how will changes in federal policy, such as a recent Farm Bill authorization, how does that impact the Open Door?
Well, I think the thing to really keep in mind about smart federal programs and policies is that they're designed to be a safety net for our most vulnerable citizens. And charity, such as the Open Door, or community response, such as the Open Door, is intended to work hand in hand with that safety net. The community response, the response from you and I, is never intended to carry the full load of what the issues of food insecurity actually are, or the issues of poverty. And so we work hand in hand with that safety net. If there are cuts in that safety net, it increases the load on the community response. And most organizations, including the Open Door, are not prepared to take on the full weight of what that safety net has been providing. And so whenever we have a chance, we advocate for smart public policy that really holds in place that safety net for people who are food insecure and struggling.
Are there any threats to your programs and fundings? What are the biggest challenges you will face over the next 2 years?
So I think, one of the biggest challenges that we face is the uncertainty, not knowing exactly what is going to happen on the federal level, and even for that matter, in our states. So we're always keeping an eye on the policies that will impact the services that we're able to provide. And it's important, as I said earlier, to realize that any time that there's a cut in a federal or even a state program that helps provide services to low-income people, it increases the burden on the community response. And we are not equipped in the short term or the long term to carry that. So, we may be able to plug a hole, here or there, but it then becomes, you get yourself so stretched so thin that you would not be able to do that. We would not be able to do that.
And one of the services that I believe you provide is help for people to apply for electronic balance transfer, for otherwise known as food stamps. Yes?
That is correct, yes.
And I would imagine that would be directly impacted by any cuts to policy as well.
It would, absolutely. So the Open Door provides a bilingual client advocate to work with people who are applying for the first time for the EBT or the SNAP benefit, which is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistant Program, formerly known as food stamps. And they'll work with someone for a first time, they'll work with someone for a recertification, or they'll work with someone to do what we call a SNAP checkup. And basically the same way you go to your doctor and the doctor says, how are you doing on drinking water? And, this and that, checking in on the different parts of your health. We check in on the economic health of your household and say, has anything changed? Oh, wait a minute, you may actually be eligible for an increased food stamp benefit because you're now taking care of your mother, or something has changed in the household. And so we do offer that assistance. To be clear, we're not we're not the Department of Transitional Assistance. They do a fabulous job, but we really are, in many cases, that advocate that helps someone one-on-one to be sure that they're getting the benefit for the first time, that they can stay on the benefit if they're eligible, and that they're getting the most of the benefit that they're eligible for. Cuts to a federal program in any threat to that federal safety net, including cuts to SNAP, would have an impact on the lines of people who are coming to food pantries here in Gloucester and across the state and across the country.
Right, more people looking to sign up for food stamps, less money available, more people in line for food.
Right.
Yeah. So eligibility for SNAP benefit, what does that look like? How does that work?
Okay, so what I would say is, first and foremost, everyone's situation's a little different, so it's not a one-size-fits-all. Sometimes people will have a factor that will influence the amount of benefit that they get versus someone else who may appear to have the same circumstances but not. But just in a rough overview, here in Massachusetts, you can be at 200% of poverty and be eligible for a SNAP benefit. On the federal level, you can be at 100 or poverty is let me back up on that. You can be eligible for SNAP at 130% of poverty for a federal benefit. In Massachusetts, there is an additional waiver and categorical eligibility that allows you to be eligible at 200% of poverty. And so you say, well, what does that mean, Julie? That's a lot of percentages and numbers. But roughly that means that a family of four in Massachusetts can be making around $50,000 and be eligible for a SNAP benefit. And, the truth is, living here in the Northeast, the wages just do not keep pace with the cost of living. And, when you look at the housing market, when you look at what it takes to rent a one-bedroom or two-bedroom apartment, keep the lights on, keep gas in your car, keep food on the table, $50,000 for four people is not a lot of money. So.
No, $50,000 for one person might even be a struggle in this climate. So these people, all right, so people have SNAP benefits. Those run out and then they come to food pantry, or do they come before those run out? What is the process? I guess, who is coming? Is there eligibility to be met in order to come to the food pantry?
So first and foremost, statement of need is your eligibility to come to the food pantry. If you say, I need some help, you come and you get some help. Then we'll help take a look and see, well, what's going on? Are you eligible for SNAP? Should we get you signed up for it if you're not? And just to see what's going on. But what I would say is that, when you ask me who is using the food pantry, it is folks, folks who were struggling, like we just said, but also of that 7,747 people, only 6.6% of the people came and used the food pantry 19 times or more, and 75% used the pantry about once a month. And so, people can come once every 7 days, but they're not necessarily utilizing the full food pantry service unless they need it. So I think for a lot of people, they may be getting a food stamp benefit at the beginning of the month. They may not feel the need to use the food pantry. Closer to the end of the month, they may come use the food pantry. I think that for many people, using the food pantry and the SNAP benefit complement one another, and it helps make the difference for people to make it through the month.
And with that, is there a limit as to what they can receive when they come through your door?
So what we do to make it fair for everyone is put an upward limit on something, so you couldn't come in and fill your entire cart with meat or all vegetables. Or we want everyone to get a well-balanced diet. We do actually track in the food pantry the amount of fresh produce and prepared meals that are going out. It's about 35% of the food that goes out is fresh, so it's fresh fruits and vegetables, or the prepared foods that we talked about. And then there are canned goods and bread and milk and eggs and meats that we discussed as well. So there's an upward limit just in terms of not being able to take all that you want of one item, but you certainly can get a little bit of everything. And it's based on your household size.
Sure. That's pretty promising, I think. So we live in this community of a lot of different backgrounds. We have immigrants, and I know that we currently have refugees living here in Gloucester. Are they able to come to the food pantry, and are they able to? Are they eligible for other services such as SNAP benefit?
So I think one of the really great things about our community is its diversity, and I think that anyone who needs help with food ends up at our doors one way or another. And it is our job when they arrive to make sure that they leave with food, and it is also our job to make sure that if they are eligible for other benefits and services, that we help connect them to that.
Great. So, what kind of services do you think that? I'm just curious. I hear a lot of debate going back and forth, saying, on this issue, and I'm wondering what kind of services would, if I were a green card holder, what kind of services would I be, able to sign up for?
Yeah, so I guess that I would say this, and going back to every situation is unique. So depending on your circumstances, we would check with all of the programs that were available to see what you were eligible for, and then you would be eligible to leave the food pantry with food. So
that's good. That's wonderful. So no one's going to go hungry.
Right. There's that immediate, need to be sure that we're connecting to people to good food in the moment, and then scanning for other services and things that they may be eligible for.
And I'm certain that you'd welcome them to your community meals as well.
Oh, without a doubt, yes.
Ken is wonderful. I've worked with him a few times preparing meals for the community, and that's just been a heartwarming experience. Could you share a little bit about what community meal is, how often, how many meals? Is it every day? Is it twice a day? That kind of thing.
Sure. So, the Open Door has a variety of ways that we serve the community through whole groceries. I talked a little bit about some of our distribution programs, and then through meal programs. And the community meals are held at the Open Door 5 nights a week, and they are public suppers for anyone who needs to come in to get food or to connect with other people. The companionship is an important piece. So the community meals are held 5 nights a week. We have a 6th night that is a family supper, and so that is a supper that is geared just for families with children, with kids' activities and kid-friendly food and those types of things. If you haven't experienced a community meal, and I know you have, there's really something wonderful about coming together some friends, or people maybe you don't even know. You're coming together and you're preparing a meal, and you're serving that meal, and you're having the opportunity to see what that meal does for people. And so there are relationships that are formed around the tables in the dining room, and there are, people who come there for their point of social contact, and it really makes a difference for people who are trying to maybe stay in their home, helps people age in place, and there's a really good feeling all the way around. And so in terms of numbers, the beginning of the month we're serving fewer people, the end of the month we're serving more people, and that again has to do with the way benefits run. I think that we would serve anywhere between 50 and 60 people a night at the beginning of the month, and more like 70 or 80 people towards the end of the month. People have that meal, the companionship. They have a meal that they can take home, and it's really kind of one of the simplest acts, but has the biggest impact, I think, for people.
Truly, such an act of kindness. That's mainly run by volunteers, yes?
Well, volunteers are the backbone of the Open Door all the way around. And so we do have a community meals manager. You referenced Ken Tabor, who's really fabulous. He runs the kitchen wonderfully. And in fact, I think that he believes that each meal is a performance, and you can tell that when you're there. And it's a performance that always deserves an encore, and he gets a chance to do it 5 nights a week. But we then have volunteer groups that come in to prepare and serve those meals. And there are about 48 different groups from the community that come in on a regular basis. So every week we're not scrambling saying, who's cooking tonight? There's a calendar that's done a year in advance, and groups are coming in. And there can be corporate groups, they can be community groups, they can be service groups, they can be from the faith community, from all corners of the community coming together.
That's wonderful. So as a Democrat, I know we do a lot of service for Open Door, either through community meals, but the big one that we do is every January we do a food collection at Market Basket. We'll have that coming up for Open Door, and we will be collecting proteins, canned fish, soups, that kind of thing, and we tend to look to collect about a ton of food for you. We will be doing that again this year. I will be reaching out to Tyler, and that will be on the 18th, 9 to 3 at Market Basket. Come join us, stop by, bring a donation. It goes to the Open Door. How else can Democrats help locally, statewide, and nationally?
I guess I would just say this. I think that Democrats and everyone who cares about their community should be involved. I think that it is very important in this day and age and at this time for us to really be putting our efforts into our local community. I think there are things you can do on the state level and things you can do on the federal level, but I really think that it starts at home. How we take care of our own, how we converse with one another, how we interact with one another, tis the season for kindness.
Absolutely.
And civil discourse.
I agree. I could not agree with you more. Well, it's been an eye-opening experience talking to you here today. You are full of wonderful information on all things Open Door. I'd like to thank you for coming today, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. And I will definitely see you on the 18th at the Market Basket.
Very good. We will see you then.
Thank you. And good night.